Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Ward 5 City Hall Community Meeting. My name is Christine McNulty. I'm the city's Community Engagement Specialist. And before we begin, I would like to note that bathrooms are by the entrance to the cafeterias out in the hallways. I understand that it is warm in here tonight. What is going on? It is warm in here tonight. We have the fan going. We have water at that table in the back, well, I guess near the front of the cafeteria, and there's also water fountains outside in the hallway. So please feel free to step out, grab water, step into the air conditioning, whatever you need to do. Pizza and refreshments can be found over here in that corner in the back of the room. Copies of tonight's slide deck can be found there as well. And please visit our Somerville Office of Immigrant Affairs table, as well as some of our other staff from the OSPCD department. At this time, I would like to welcome Councillor Said to the podium.
Hello, everyone. This is Naima Said, your Ward 5 City Councillor. I just want to take a moment to welcome everyone, Madam Mayor, and any other elected officials here. I don't think I see any. And a big thank you to city staff tonight. We will hear, we will get updates on Ward 5 related projects, but also citywide projects. So yeah, city staff, take it away.
Thank you so much, Councillor. And so now for the meeting format. After each presentation, we will take 2 initial questions. We have a microphone available for audience questions. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and wait for the microphone before asking it. If we don't get to your question initially, please hold on to it. At the completion of all of the presentations, we will open up into a general Q&A. Please note that we would like to give everyone the opportunity to ask a question. I will do my best to prioritize audience members who have not yet spoken, and I would like to ask for your assistance in this matter as well. Please help me help everyone speak and share the microphone. If we don't get to your question tonight at all, you can email cm@somervillema.gov, and we will direct your comment to the appropriate department. Tonight's meeting is being recorded. Meeting recordings will be available online at the conclusion of our meeting series and will be posted on the City TV Government YouTube channel. And with that, I have a few quick city updates before we dive into the main presentations. The Somerville Public Library Strategic Planning Survey is open until Friday, October 10th. You can fill out the survey by scanning this QR code or by visiting somervillepubliclibrary.org. A reminder that Somerville's municipal election will take place on Tuesday, November 4th. On this slide are various deadlines for registering to vote, submitting vote-by-mail ballots, vote-by-mail applications, as well as blue box locations for dropping off vote-by-mail ballots. For all election information, please visit somervillema.gov/elections. While we're on that note, the Elections Department is looking for poll workers. They make $240 for the day, and it's a great way to get out and get involved and meet people. So please, if you're interested, email hradmin@somervillema.gov to apply. On September 19th, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey signed the proposed new City of Somerville Charter. For the November election, 2 ballot questions will allow voters to decide whether to accept the charter and whether to extend the mayoral term. So to learn more about the charter process, please visit somervillema.gov/charter review. In collaboration with the Mobility, Parking, and Fire, the Engineering Division has been improving signals throughout the city. In particular, we are executing a key goal of the administration's fiscal year 26 budget to upgrade our traffic signals with a location-based emergency vehicle preemption system. Cool. Accessibility is equally important. We are in the process of installing 200 accessible crossing signs with the street name in raised text and Braille. We are also actively upgrading our pedestrian signals with accessible push buttons and countdown timers. Since December 2024, the Somerville Office of Immigrant Affairs has held over 150 Know Your Rights trainings for community members. If you are looking for this information, you can visit our wonderful SOIA staff over at this table over here by the fan. Smart. We have a variety of materials and information in a bunch of different languages. So to learn more about upcoming events, know your rights trainings, or more information generally about the Office of Immigrant Affairs, you can visit our team members over there. You can visit somervillema.gov/SOIA, or you can scan the QR code here. If you are currently a caregiver, the Somerville Council on Aging has resources for you and your family. The COA offers a caregiver support group, educational resources from partner organizations, and other forms of group support. You can learn more and register by contacting Molly Pagliuca by email at mpagliuca@somervillema.gov or by calling the phone number listed up here on the screen. The Somerville Climate Ambassador Program is designed to empower Somerville residents to take action on climate change in their community. If you're looking for an opportunity to learn something new, get more involved in your community, become a local leader, or meet new people, consider applying to become a climate ambassador. Scan the QR code here, or you can visit somervillema.gov/CFA to apply. Applications are open until December 1st. There's a lot to do in Somerville, and tonight we wanted to highlight some upcoming events. We have Summer Street's Monster Mash planned for Sunday, October 19th from 2 to 6 p.m., and the annual Truck or Treat will be held on Thursday, October 23rd at the City Hall Concourse. And finally, you can stay up to date with all things City of Somerville by subscribing to our weekly newsletter. You can do this by using the QR code on this slide or by visiting somervillema.gov/subscribe. On this webpage, you'll find a list of other departments that have their own newsletters. We welcome you to subscribe to any and all that might interest you. And with that, we have reached the end of the quick updates portion of the meeting. Thank you, and I would like to welcome Mayor Ballantyne to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see you. What I'd like to just start out is ask a couple open-ended questions so we can all get to know who's in the room and you can get to know your neighbors. So would you raise your hand if this is your very first community meeting? Wonderful. Thank you for coming. Welcome. And thank you, one of our youngest, newest members. Yes, thank you. If you've lived in Somerville 1 year or less, raise your hand. If you've lived in Somerville 2 years or less, between 2 years and 5 years, raise your hand. Okay, awesome. Between 5 and 10 years? Okay. Between 10 and 15? 15 and 20? 20 and 30? Okay. Over 30? If you've lived here your entire life, raise your hand. Okay. Woo! If you have children who attend Somerville Public Schools, raise your hand. Okay. Let's see. If you primarily use public transit to move around Somerville or the greater Boston area, please raise your hand. Okay. If you primarily walk, raise your hand. Okay. How about ride a bike? Oh, wow. Okay. If you drive primarily, raise your hand. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. If you plan to attend Monster Mash, please raise your hand. Okay. And let's see. So how about thinking about our small businesses and our squares? Davis Square. If you visit a shop at a Davis Square small business more than 3 times a week, please raise your hand. Okay, Union Square, raise your hand. Okay, great. Does anybody want to know something about residents here in Somerville? Do you want to throw out a question? Nobody? Do you have a question? No? Okay. All right. Next off, I would like to introduce our staff and the staff departments, I guess, that are here tonight. The reason I do this, and I do this up front, is some people can't stay for the entire meeting. So it's good to know which departments are represented. And I know we have a lot of staff here, so what I'm going to do is ask one person from every department to identify the department that is here. So will those one people from each department please stand up? Okay. So why don't we start this way? Quickly, loud voices.
Office of Housing Stability.
Awesome.
Health and Human Services. Work and Community. Mobility Division. Council on Aging. Elections. Economic Development. Environmental Sustainability. Engineering. Public Space and Everywhere. Sorry. Office of Immigration Affairs.
Woo!
And the Office of Constituent Services 311.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So it's no surprise to any of us that Massachusetts is in the midst of a housing crisis. So this evening I'm going to talk about what's happening and what we're doing about it. What does it mean when we say that there's a housing crisis? Well, according to the numbers, the median home prices are rising faster than our income. In fact, from 2000 to 2023, so 23 years, the median home prices in Massachusetts rose 70%. But the median household income only rose 4% when adjusted for inflation. Nearly 40% of households spend more than a third of their take-home pay on their rent or mortgage, and for just under 20% of our neighbors, that number is more than half. That means that over 7,000 Somerville families are one emergency away from displacement. A key reason this is happening is that we are creating jobs that draw workers here, but not creating enough housing to meet their demand. Here's the graph. Those housing prices and the income stats that I just mentioned. Look how the blue line that shows housing prices pulls away over time compared to the orange line that shows household income. That's a really troubling disconnect. The numbers paint a stressful story, but what does it feel like to live through a housing crisis? Well, I'll tell you, I hear the details from residents many times. It feels like learning your building is being sold and the rent is going to double. It feels like couples who want to expand their family but can't afford a larger living space. It feels like staying in an unsafe housing situation because there's no affordable alternative. It feels like leaving food in the grocery basket at the checkout because your rent is high. It feels like neighbors, classmates, or families are moving out of Somerville. The bottom line, we need more housing, and housing that we can all afford. I know the question that's on everyone's mind is, so what's Somerville doing about it? The answer is everything we can. We're using every tool we have or creating new ones. And here are a few samples. We're purchasing homes with nonprofits before they hit the market to keep these units affordable. We launched a consolidated rental wait list, so you only need to submit one application for our many inclusionary rental units. We successfully fought to lower rental search fees at the State House, and we're continuing our impactful advocacy work. I also want to highlight something really important, that a big portion of our housing work is supported by the Community Preservation Act. Last fall, Somerville voters overwhelmingly chose to double the CPA surcharge from its legal maximum of to 3%, bringing that total amount of CPA funding from $3 million a year to $6 million. 55% of that money goes to affordable housing initiatives. The other percentage goes to preservation and open space. The choice you made at the ballot box is bringing dollars that really make positive change and this real change possible. Thank you to everyone who voted to make this happen. Our approach to housing is built on 3 key pillars. Make sure more housing is built, both market rate and affordable, keep people in their homes, and prevent displacement. Create homes that will be a good fit for those who need them most. So let me walk you through what each of these look like. The need for more housing is a statewide issue. Massachusetts needs 222,000 new homes by 2035 to meet the demand according to the state data. So we're doing our part. Somerville has close to 800 new housing units in that housing pipeline right now. And to put that into perspective, can anybody shout out how many housing units they believe are in Somerville? Okay, I'll tell you. I like these little factoids, so that's why. It's 34,000, so it puts it in perspective to the 222,000 housing units that Massachusetts needs. With CPA funds, we're adding 25 affordable apartments for elderly and disabled residents at the Mystic Waterworks. That's over on Mystic Valley Parkway near Dilboy. 54 permanently affordable homes through the 100 Homes program, and 319 units, including 136 affordable at 299 Broadway, which is known as the former Star Market site on Winter Hill. We're also building forward with our neighborhood scale plans. In August, we adopted an Assembly Square neighborhood plan, which aims to create nearly 3,000 to 5,700 new housing units. Of those, roughly 600 to 1,100 will be affordable apartments. In our Brick Bottom plan, Brick Bottom is over by Target on the other side of McGrath Highway. That plan is done and the zoning for it is in progress now. That plan sets forth 400 to 625 new housing units, which will also include affordable housing units. Let's also not forget the 100 Homes program. Since it started in 2015, we've partnered with Somerville Community Corporation to buy homes. Then we keep them permanently affordable. So far, we've kept 106 homes affordable this way. When we look closer to home, this is a quick look at projects in your neighborhood here in Ward 5. I won't run through all of them, but as you can see, there's a lot underway, including 259 Lowell Street, which is the Somerville VNA, the Visiting Nurses Association. We gave them funding to upgrade their existing 97 units and deepen affordability options for 78 affordable units. We're also deploying a wide range of housing supports to stabilize residents in need now. In 2022, for example, we used ARPA funds to launch a rental assistance program for residents. We helped them with overdue rent, provided financial support during housing searches, covered expenses that can make or break your access to housing, like security deposits. By its end in 2024, it was Somerville's largest and most successful rental assistance program and the most flexible and robust program of its kind in Massachusetts. To keep this going, our Office of Housing Stability partnered with the Somerville Homeless Coalition and CAS, these are our nonprofit partners, to create a new version of the program to continue the work. As of June 2025, we have put more than $5.6 million into direct rental assistance, serving 892 people across 677 households. As we build and preserve housing units, we need to ensure access for people who need them most. Our inclusionary housing program is one of the strongest tools we have for that. Any new building with 4 or more units must have a set aside at least 20% as affordable. Since 2021, Somerville has added nearly 3,000 new homes, and nearly 500 of them are affordable because of this policy. We also need to ensure units that fit people's needs. So in addition to doing things like making sure we build family-sized units, we're also making housing for older adults a top priority. The average Social Security monthly payment is $2,000. Meanwhile, the median rent for an apartment in Somerville is $3,423 a month. That doesn't add up. Given the gap between escalating rents and the fixed income of many older adults, it was clear that additional resources and creative thinking were needed to prevent their displacement. With Senator Pat Jalen's support in securing state funding, we launched an older adult bridge program, a pilot program. Last year, it kept 8 seniors in their homes who otherwise would have been displaced. Because of that success, the state now set more than double funding to $220,000 this year, pending their revenue review. Our municipal voucher program is another Somerville success story. In partnership with CAS and the Cambridge Housing Authority, this program provides rental assistance to families with extremely low incomes who aren't eligible for federal or state supports, with a focus on families with children in the Somerville Public Schools. We've already enrolled 30 families, and they pay no more than 30% of their income towards rent, with help also provided for security deposits and other stabilization services. It's taken intensive staff work from both city and schools to make this program a success. The photo is a couple of our friendly Office of Housing Stability staff who are doing this work. While we are building housing, I have also directed staff to actively advocate for greater tenant protections in order to help keep tenants in their homes, and our advocacy has paid off. We helped pass the Affordable Homes Act this summer, which seals certain eviction cases, and we're already holding workshops so tenants know their rights. We fought for access to council legislation, securing $2.5 million in state funding to expand tenant legal representation at the local state level. And here in Somerville, we've taken the lead by contracting with 2 local agencies to provide that support directly. We built a statewide coalition to push for the real estate transfer fee on luxury sales. I've testified in support of this fee at the State House this month and every year for like the last 6 years. It could bring $6 to $10 million a year for affordable housing here. And we've advanced rent stabilization home rule petition at the state legislature, recommended by my anti-displacement task force. That petition could cap rent hikes at 5% and add more eviction protections. So what does this all look like in terms of investments? We've invested at historic levels to advance housing affordability and stability goals, a total of roughly $62 million in 3 years. In the current economic climate, it could be tough to keep the pace up, and meaning, there's going to have to be more creative approaches to continue this important work. We're able to do this work really because of you. We are fortunate to have a community that wants to take on the housing crisis. I do want to note that the way I see it is that there's two sides of the coin when it comes to affordability. On one side are the costs, on the other side, like rents and mortgages, and on the other side is the revenue. It's jobs, it's good jobs. On the job side, we're expanding training for employment in growing sectors like clean energy, building maintenance, and skilled trades through our Scale adult learning program, which is managed by our Somerville Public Schools and other local partners. We're also helping local employers stay local. Last year, we launched a small business vitality grant that can cover up to 12 months of storefront rent. We also released a commercial leasing handbook to help local entrepreneurs find and secure spaces that work for them. When I say we're using every tool in the toolbox, I mean it. Somerville cannot solve the housing crisis alone, but we must do our part. We're doing absolutely everything we can to build more housing, combat displacement, as well are our state partners. From strengthening tenant protections to expanding affordable housing to rethinking regional housing policy, we must keep going, and we will. Together, we can ensure Somerville remains a place we can all call home. To connect yourself or others you know with staff for information assistance, there are links on this page for the Inclusionary Housing Program. You can sign up for alerts when units become available, and you can also ask for housing assistance. Thank you. I'm happy to take a couple questions now or at the end. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Next up, I would like to welcome Ed Hardy from our 311 and Constituent Services Departments.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, Ward 5. Is everyone excited tonight? You may hear it in my voice. I am a little bit more excited than usual. I got a call from my 25-year-old son not too long ago. He said, "Dad, you know what day it is?" I said, "No." He said, "It's National Left-Handers Day," something like that, because he's a lefty. So I was thinking on the way over tonight, I said, "Well, what is today?" And I, like any good Gen Xer, I talked to my phone and I said, "Hey, what's today's national day?" And today is National Taco Day. It's also National Inner Beauty Day and National Bathtub Day. But that's not why I'm so excited. The first Tuesday of every October is the Global Customer Experience Professionals Day. Ta-da! So October 7th. So you're getting a whole presentation that I don't give at any of the other ward meetings, because it is October 7th, and we're very proud to be able to talk just a minute about what CX is. A lot of people might have heard the term. There are a lot of different definitions for customer experience. I've been in the industry for a long time, and I work with a neighboring consulting firm in Cambridge called Forrester Research. And the way they define customer experience is, it refers to the overall interactions and perceptions a customer has with a brand or organization throughout their entire journey, from initial awareness to purchase and use and beyond. It encompasses all encounters, whether online or in person, and significantly influences customer loyalty, trust, confidence, and satisfaction. A positive customer experience can lead to repeat business and brand loyalty, trust, and confidence, while a negative experience can result in customer churn. If you take the word customer and replace it with constituent, it still applies. And I'm very fortunate that customer and constituent start with the same letter. It doesn't confuse people in my profession. So anyway, I'm very happy to be sharing this exciting day for me, Customer Experience Day, to tell you a little bit about it. We've been capturing customer satisfaction data since 2016. Our very first submitted survey, believe me, I know all the data. I've been going through it for a couple of years now. The very first survey we received was on July 7th of 2016. It was from a Miss Megan Kay, and I believe she was in Ward 2, and she had a question about a parking permit. And the reason I remember that so vividly is because that is the very first survey. And ever since then, we have been consistently collecting, gathering, analyzing, and reporting on customer feedback and satisfaction levels through a very short survey. I'm sure many of you have seen. Comes in after you make a service request with 311. It asks you to rate us on 4 simple things. Were we accurate in what we exchanged with you? Were we courteous when you contacted us and requested service? And was it easy to do business or have an interaction with us? And then we ask you to rate us overall on that one event that you called in about. And we've been doing that for over 19,000 unique contacts or respondents to it. We've had way more interactions, but in terms of respondents and giving pure feedback, we've had over 19,000 unique and identifiable encounters that help us drive that. So, as it says here, I just want to say thank you. Please continue to respond to the CSAT surveys. I know there's something called survey fatigue out there when you get, oh, geez, another survey, you know, whatever. But I'm here to tell you and plead with you to please continue taking them, because the information we gather through your feedback, whether it's just feedback or whether it's a service request and you're giving us feedback on that request, it really is, truly is, the driving force that drives our continuous improvement efforts across the city. And we measure it every month, and we report it, and it's still evolving. So please, 2 things: a thank you, and please keep responding. But anyway, enough of that. Happy CX Day, everybody. I am happy to be representing, I'm super excited also to be representing this handsome group of people. You'll notice I am not in the picture, but this is our 311 team. Our 311 team handles about 300 telephone calls a day for requests for service. They also, I'll break it down this way. They basically take three types of calls that are going to happen. If we go to the next slide. Oh, yeah, our mission is very simple. We are going to provide the best constituent experience in the Commonwealth. End of story. It's that easy. And I'll tell you, coming from the private sector for many big technology and biotechnology companies in the state, I believe we're already at that peak. I am constantly and daily impressed with the knowledge of the 311 staff, the depth and breadth of knowledge they have to know. We support over 300 services citywide. It's a complicated organism, the city of Somerville. We support over 20 departments. And the 311 agents who you see pictured here need to know a little bit about everything. They're jack of all trades. And their job is to make sure that your call is answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Answered and logged. It doesn't mean that we're going to go out and fill the pothole at 2 o'clock in the morning or fix a sidewalk sign. But it means your call will be logged 24/7. And again, as I mentioned earlier, there are basically 3 types of calls. What we hope for is the very first one, an inquiry. You're going to call up, you're going to talk to a 311 agent like Charisse, I believe she's here somewhere, one of our 311 agents, and they're going to be able to answer your question right there on the spot. You have a question about parking permits, you have questions about something being picked up for the trash, they'll answer it, they'll close that call, you'll receive a text message with a service request number, she'll close that call, and then you'll get the survey, which hopefully you'll take. The second thing, and that's what we strive to do. We call that first call resolution. We try to handle everything we can right there at the start from 311. The second bucket is when we can't handle it. We're not going to really go out there and fill the pothole. Our DPW department is going to do that. So we'll log that request and we'll dispatch it through our customer relationship management system. It'll be routed to that department. They'll handle it. They'll close it. You'll receive an update when this service is closed. And again, that will trigger the survey. And again, I'm asking you, please take the survey when you can. The third bucket, we have a saying in 311 or in constituent services, if you have a burning building, call 911. If you have a burning question, call 311. And that's a nice fancy way for you to kind of remember it. But we do have a third bucket. A third bucket is when I don't really have a service request, but something's on my mind that I want DPW to know, that I want the parking department to know, that I want the mayor's office to know. We just want to give us some feedback. We're there for that as well. That's the third bucket that you see here. To date, we've logged over 10,000 of those feedback records. Those are routed just like a service request to the appropriate department, individual, committee, whatever it may be, for review and action if deemed necessary or if it's requested. So that's basically how our call flow works. We'll work on the issue, the request is logged, routed, and closed, and then you get your survey. So it doesn't seem like a very complicated workflow process, but again, when you talk about the depth and breadth of the information that 311 has to deal with, it is really quite amazing. And every day I go into the office, I am in awe by what these people do. In closing, got to read this from my deputy director. We have three things we're hoping you remember tonight. One is call 311 whenever you see something that needs fixing, you have a question or aren't sure which department to reach, start with us. We are the gateway to city services, and calling 311 helps make sure your issue is tracked and routed to the right place. Second, spread the word. We get over, like I said, over 300 phone calls a day. We add in the walk-ins at the help desk at City Hall. When you add in community events such as this, we handle in excess of 100,000 interactions every year. What I try to tell the 311 agents is every time you answer that call, you greet that customer at the welcome, that constituent at the welcome desk, you are the voice, the face, the pen, the brain of Somerville. And they try to treat every interaction with that. So again, my name is Ed Hardy. If you don't feel you're getting that kind of treatment at 311 or whenever you have a question, please feel free to call me directly by calling 311. Other than that, please tell your neighbors about 311. Let them know we're here, and look forward to speaking with you. And I can take any questions you may have. Thanks for putting up with my CX Day stuff.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Sorry, we just had to make sure. Does anyone have any questions? No? Right there.
Thank you. I'm Harriet Randwick, and 311 has been helpful to me. I think it's improved a good deal in the last few years because as a blind computer user, though we are working very hard to have an accessible website, it's a bit like trying to weave a tapestry when all you got is a potholder loom. So I've been extremely appreciative of their helpfulness, and for me, sometimes the delay has been pretty long between the call I make and a receipt or an action. So, but I do appreciate the effort and the patience and the time it must take all of you 311 workers. But it's as though you've been put an impossible task. And please keep on keeping on, and the flow of communication can never be too much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I will be sure to pass those kind words on to our director, Steve Craig, and everyone who's part of 311. And that's exactly what I was talking about, a perfect example of just giving us some feedback, positive, negative, and different. We are here to listen. You hear the mayor talk about it, we are listening, and I just wanted to throw some weight behind that statement and say that we really are. Excellent. Thank you so much. Happy CX Day.
Thank you so much, Ed. Happy CX Day to you specifically. Next up, I would like to welcome John Bronenkant from our Public Space and Urban Forestry Department.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Bronenkant, and I am with the Public Space and Urban Forestry Department. So the first item I would like to talk about is our Open Space and Recreation Plan. Thanks to everyone who participated in the community engagement for this. We received numerous comments, some great information about the goals that we're trying to achieve in our Open Space and Recreation Plan. What does this plan do? It outlines our goals open space-wise for the next 10 years. So we now know what our next 10 years worth of projects are and what our goals are for the city. Next slide. Next is some wonderful pollinator news. So we have also published our Somerville Pollinator Action Plan and are now working on implementing some of that thinking, which includes adding pollinator plantings at 5 parks across Somerville. That includes Conway Park, Hoyt Sullivan, Chucky Harris, the Wedding Nook at Prospect Hill Park, and demonstrator pollinator gardens at our City Hall. You can contribute to this effort by becoming a pollinator champion. Details can be found by scanning the QR code here, and if you meet certain requirements, you can pick up a yard sign and show off your pollinators to your neighbors. And then this autumn, we also want to remind you some tips from the Pollinator Action Plan. Including leaving the leaves in your planting areas so that they can decompose and fertilize your soil, and to not cut back perennials until May. Hollow stems can serve as a greater pollinator nest for habitat throughout the winter. And a final reminder also that most of all pollinators are solitary and not defending their nests. So if you leave them alone, they will probably leave you alone. Next slide, please. So 2 fun things about this slide. One, we are installing 10 new inclusive swings throughout our playgrounds. So this is going to increase our percentage of inclusive swings from 23 to 89% in our playgrounds. So over the next few weeks, you'll see that change take place. Also, these swings have a hard yoke, but also soft straps. So if you work in daycare or need a soft strap, please reach out to me or the PSF department. I'll have cards, and you can find me after this to get more information about those soft straps. Additionally, we have opened our new park, Ken Kelly Park, located at 217 Somerville Ave. Highly recommend taking a stroll out there, grabbing some ice cream, and enjoying the park while the weather is still lovely. Next slide, please. Sorry, no, not yet. Our urban forestry team continues to oversee 2 programs for proactive tree maintenance. This year marks the completion of a full cycle of our tree health assessment and responding to health issues for all of those trees in our parks, which means the following year, we start that whole cycle again. The second program makes sure that we are assessing the health of all of our trees once they reach that 3-year mark. So all of our new parks receive proactive tree maintenance. These maintenance programs prolong the life of individual trees and urban forests, especially as we can continue to achieve our 350 trees planted per year. Finally, I would like to make a big shout out to our Kennedy School Inclusive Playground Project. We're currently meeting with the school and the community to start to hear about what people want from the Kennedy School Improvement Project. So you can scan that QR code to find a bunch of different events that are coming out. A survey is going to be coming out in the next few weeks, and a lot of good community engagement will follow that. And thank you very much. Questions, sorry.
Hi. I was just wondering if there was an update on when the Junction Park might open, or at least when the fences might get removed?
Junction Park, we hope in the next month or 2. There's been some delays due to soil contamination. That's been since resolved, and they've been working very hard on that park since that issue has been resolved. So we hope very soon that park will open up.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. This is Harriet Randvig, and I really appreciate your update. And I'm probably missing something on the website or somewhere because I know vertium wilt is really doing its damage. I've lost one very nice maple tree 2 or 3 years ago, and now it seems my lilac is dying, and I'm not the only one, I know that. So I don't know if there's a special resource place to look for that. I do know that hazelnuts can grow in the soil because we have a nice little hazelnut bush that's growing well where our tree was. So that's kind of encouraging, but it'd be great to have a list somewhere of what's hardy, what isn't hardy, and what any expectations, because as far as I know, there's no real treatment for that condition. And the other thing is, I really like to point out that as the vice chair of the Commission for Persons with Disabilities, we are really thrilled that we do have some accessible swings, and we've done what we could to give some information in also on a variety of swings, because apparently the ones we currently have are better suited for children who are neurodivergent and autistic, but some of the children who have even heavier, complex physical delay or disabilities, there are different types of swings. And that's been a bit of a knot because apparently there's ideas about what's safe and so forth and so on. But we would love to be drawn in. It's been said that we've been connected to the Kennedy School as some advisory support. And we would love to do that and would really seek invitation for that. Thank you.
Of course, and we will happily be sending that invitation to you. We are very eager to engage with the Somerville Persons with Disabilities Commission on this playground because, yes, like you said, there are many needs that we need to understand in this playground, and you are a very valuable source to tap into for that information. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Next up, I would like to welcome Bill Fisher, who is the Director of the Office of Emergency Management.
I hate these things. So good evening, everyone. So again, my name is Bill Fisher. I'm the Director of Emergency Management here in the city of Somerville. I've been here for about 15 months, just over a year, and with me is the Deputy Director, Lauren Mahoney. She's been here for about 7 months or so. So we're new to the city and we're kind of learning how things go, but we're going to go over some of the things that we've accomplished tonight. But when I first stood up and said I'm from the Office of Emergency Management, how many people have any idea what emergency management is or what it does? That's good that you know. And who else? I'm sorry, I missed the other hands. Good, awesome. So a little bit more than we see in a lot of meetings, but a lot of times people don't know necessarily what emergency management we're responsible for or what we do. So we wanted to, this first slide kind of brings up a bunch of words. Activate it. This is what happens when you have your deputy director play with PowerPoint. So it's got a lot of words up there and they all kind of reflect some of the areas we concentrate on, but that green word at the end, community focused. We believe in a whole community approach. Everything we do is focused on trying to make the community more resilient. Resilient from what? Well, typically disasters really is what we think about. Anything that could happen, such as hurricanes, fires, floods, tornadoes, those things we don't ever want to happen, we've got to plan for those ahead of time, and there's a comprehensive way we do that. So when we look at what emergency management is or what it's not, we look at emergency management is a local responsibility. Now, this has never been more true than right now. Now, we have state agencies or state partners, we have federal partners, but unfortunately, I can't say how much we're going to be able to count on the federal partners, and then the state gets assistance, so we don't know. But we've always tried to be locally resilient either way, because it comes down to it's a home rule state in Massachusetts, and this responsibility is for the city to protect and provide for the citizens of the city. We're focused on all hazards. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't look at individual things that happen, but we find that typically people are affected in similar ways no matter what the emergency is. We actually take what's considered a lifeline approach. We look at the critical infrastructure that people depend on, whether that's electricity, food, water, shelter, any number of things that could be affected in some way by a disaster, and how to make sure we can plan for, shore those up, and provide to restore them if something were to happen. And we do that in a phased approach of preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation, and that's a cycle. And I like to say when I talk about this that because that's a cycle, I can decide what on-ramp we take onto that cycle. Hopefully it's in the preparedness portion, or maybe the mitigation. We're trying to do things to prevent or reduce the impacts of a disaster. But if I don't do the work we need to do, then life is going to kind of stick me on the response portion of it, and we're going to have to figure it out from there. So I'd rather go on that on-ramp. And the intent in the end is to protect lives first, and then we're looking at protecting infrastructure and, of course, the economy, because we want to keep the economy going as well. And everything actually fits together in the end. So what emergency management is not, it's not just FEMA's job, and again, in this day and age, that's easier to understand with a lot of the chaos going on in the federal government. It's not a one-size-fits-all model. Anybody that's heard me speak before probably has heard me say this before. Not everyone comes to a disaster in the same place. Everyone comes to it with different resiliency, different needs, and so we have to make sure that when we do the one-size-fits-all model, we don't apply that to the people that we're trying to assist in an emergency. And how does that happen? Well, it's that community, that whole community approach. I want to work with the community to understand where you are and how to best prepare you for emergencies. And that's why some of the programs we're looking to partner with the mayor's office and the city councilors for the wards and the at-large councilors is getting out in the community with them to provide training, to talk to you folks, to see what your needs are, so we can make sure as we're going through that planning process and we're getting ready to have those plans in place for disasters, it's fitting your needs. So you'll be seeing that coming up in the near future. It's not limited to just storms and floods. It can be a lot of things. It can be cyber issues. It can be violence issues. It can be all kinds of things. It can be simple large-scale power outages during a heat emergency, that sort of thing. And it's not a reactive-only type thing. I talked about this a little bit. We have to do the work ahead of time. If you were to ask me to put in simple terms what emergency management does, we're a collaborative body. We collaborate. So we take all the different entities, departments, agencies, internally and externally. We figure out what they do, how to best do them in an emergency, and we bring them together to do that same work during an emergency in a collaborative fashion. So the Office of Emergency Management, we have a mission statement. It's one of the first things I did when I arrived, because I believe you can't do any work unless you understand why you're doing it. And that guides everything we do. And so the Office of Emergency Management mission statement is to reduce the impacts of disasters through a whole community approach to ensure everyone, regardless of background or circumstance, has access to resources and support they need to recover and thrive. That is our guiding force for the Office of Emergency Management. We want to make sure that we help you to be the most resilient you can be, no matter what place you come to the disaster at. We're on the city website, and thanks to our communications and community engagement team, we're also now on Facebook. It actually looks really good. It's not my doing. It's the great team that does that. But we encourage you to sign up and follow our Facebook. I mean, we want the follows and the likes, don't get me wrong. But also, that is one of the ways we're going to put out preparedness information. So depending on what the season is or what we're seeing happening or trending, we'll put information that might help you take steps to prepare yourself in small ways so that if things do happen, you can prepare yourself, that way. So please go ahead and follow it. So some of the things we've done in those first 15 months, we've done a couple of different trainings. We started out with the staff, and like I said, we hope to move out to the community soon. One of the trainings we teach is actually a FEMA training. It's called Until Help Arrives, and that is basically a very simple, empowering training. It's basically from the moment an emergency happens until the first police car or ambulance arrives. That small period of time. It's not a first aid class, it's not a CPR class, it's all the other stuff. It's the basics of what you should be doing. And people love it. They love the training, it's very empowering. And so when we roll those out, I encourage you to take advantage of that. I guarantee you'll have a fun time and you'll definitely learn something. And then unfortunately, one of the trainings we're also rolling out to the staff and hope to get out to the community is something called Civilian Response to Active Shooter Events. I started teaching this training probably 15 years ago. And it was, we would have an active shooter event every 6 months or so, and we were like, this is horrible. Now, it's like every 7 hours or every 3 hours. It's insane. And unfortunately, I don't know how to fix the problem, but I do know how to train you to make sure that you have the skills that you need. God forbid if you find yourself in a situation to respond appropriately. And so those will be coming out to the community soon, so I hope you take advantage of those. We talked about preparedness and planning. So one of the first things we also did was we updated the city's comprehensive emergency management plan. That's currently with the mayor's office waiting to be signed and implemented. The last time it was updated was 2015. And so we have a new, modern plan that we want to, well, we're already kind of operating under the guidelines of it, but we want to get it implemented. We also built a building and safety evacuation plan. When we got here, there was no evacuation maps in any city buildings. So again, I've only been here 15 months. We have successfully digitally mapped every city building and have put evacuation maps in every room. Now, I want you to understand this undertaking. Every map is individual to the room. So it's like a "you are here" map for a mall. Imagine thousands of individually specific maps that we deployed out. And these maps include not just exit routes, but they also include locations of AEDs, fire extinguishers. They have gas shutoffs, that sort of thing. But also, one of the big things I'm proud of is they have evacuation assistance areas. So if you find yourself on the 3rd floor of the city hall and you got there by the elevator, but all of a sudden there's a fire and you can't use the elevator during a fire, what do you do? I mean, it's a scary situation. We established these areas. It happens to be in City Hall. It's the center staircase. They're color-coded on the maps. You're to go to those top of those staircases in those evacuation assistance areas, and the fire department and the police department have these maps so that they know that's where you're told to go. So with the first thing they get there, when they go in to look to rescue people, they're going to go right to those areas first and try to assist people getting out. And so it's not the best answer, but it's a answer to give you a solution. So we try to think outside the box and make sure that we're assisting people in emergencies that way. We've also put together an emergency alerting protocol, a commodity point of distribution. These are usually seen when we have to give out something. Let's say we had E. coli in the water and we needed to get water out. We had a water boil order. It's going to go for an extended period of time. We may want to give out water to the community. So we figure out the entire process of how that traffic pattern works, how we're getting the water well ahead of time so we can just activate the plan. Evacuation plans, which we do regionally with the neighboring cities and towns so that we don't have Boston sending all their traffic into us and we don't send, well, most of the time we don't send them into Boston. We might, but no, just kidding. We want to make sure we have the most efficient traffic patterns so that we get people out of the areas we have to evacuate. You've probably seen the news coverage when Florida's having a hurricane and they tell people to evacuate and there's just gridlocked streets. We want to try to make sure we plan ahead for that. We also have heat and cold emergencies. So if we have heat and cold, we'll open up warming centers or cooling centers. We also have the winter warming center at the Covering School that's open during the winter for our unhoused population to provide them with food, a bed, a pillow, and some resources. And we have mass care sheltering. So if we have a large disaster, how are we sheltering you folks if you need some sort of sheltering assistance? We've also opened up emergency operations centers. These are basically the physical equivalent of emergency management, bringing all the people into a room to manage an event. And we did that for Porch Fest. So we had a mobile EOC in front of the City Hall where we brought in all the stakeholders to work with us. We did it just recently in the police station headquarters. We have our actual city EOC, and we activated the city EOC for Fluff Fest. And we'll do it again. We did it previously for the elections, and we'll do it again for the elections. We have coordinated responses for fires, severe weather, heat and cold emergencies, winter warming center I talked about, and resource recovery centers. So I'll talk about this more, I think, in the next slide, the resource recovery center, as well as we established the Somerville Emergency Management Group. So we took all of those entities within the city and outside the city that we would lean on, that we would be our stakeholders during an emergency to get the things done that we need to be most resilient. And we didn't wait for the emergency. We bring them together monthly. And we meet and we train together, we work together, and we share information together in situation reports when we have something that might be happening, might be about to happen, or something on the horizon or is happening, so that we get used to working together so that, God forbid, if an emergency does happen or disaster, all these people know their role already. We just say go, they go in the room, and we start working together. And again, the best way to do that is a practice with events. Why? Because now we can make the event operate as best as possible, so you guys have the safest, funnest event you can have because everything's coordinated well. But on the back end, we're just practicing for a disaster. So we try to do that with that. The next slide, this is a proud moment for our department. It's also a sad moment because we've had, some fires. And so, but I wanted to point out that when you look at the slide, so we had on July 6th, we had the Wheatland Street fire with 2 buildings and 27 people displaced. 5 weeks later, on August 10th, we had the Powder House Boulevard fire, 1 building, 18 people displaced. 10 days after that, the Thurston Street fire, 3 buildings, 9 people displaced. And then 8 days after that, we had the Medford Street building fire with 1 building and 4 people displaced. And if there was ever a time where you'd make the point that nobody comes to disaster at the same place, it's these 4 fires. So the first fire, the Wheatland Street fire, there was a lot of needs by the people that were in that building, and we had to meet those needs. One of the ways we did that was that Resource Recovery Center. When people need things during a disaster, let me back up. When you're trying to navigate things and you don't have a disaster, like renewing your driver's license or replacing documents or getting housing assistance, it's nearly impossible when it's a blue sky day. Now imagine you've lost everything and you're trying to navigate that. So what we try to do is, instead of bringing the person to the resources, we bring the resources to the people. And so we opened up in one of the school cafeterias, we brought all the resources there, and the survivors of the fire came and went table to table to table and spoke with the people, and they helped them with the resources right in that spot. And we had a ton of resources that showed up, and we were able to provide those. The Powder House fire, that was a Somerville Housing Authority building, and they had assistance from the Housing Authority. The Thurston Street fire, we did provide assistance, but those folks were a little better off. They had some insurance, and they were able to recover a little easier. And then the Medford Street fire, those were all BU and tough students. So 4 different groups of people in 4 fires. But the point I want to make is that in 53 days, we had 4 fires and 58 people displaced. But because of the amazing work of we were able to coordinate all these amazing people in the city together to work collaboratively to establish temporary and long-term housing for these folks. Financial assistance to the Somerville Homeless Coalition because of people like you. We put out the emergency fund and people reacted in droves. The money got donated. And we were able to do things like provide first, last, and security to these people so they could move into their permanent housing. And then they can pay their bills from there, but they couldn't make those initial payments. We were able to provide food, pet supplies, translation services through the Sawyer organization, clothing, mattresses, household goods, document replacement, school supplies, things you don't have to think about, like they may lose everything. They might need a backpack with school supplies. Also, some normalcy comes into their life with that. And so this is the work we're trying to do with this. And then we had the response with the pool. We had the chemical spill here at the pool. And we responded to that as well. We had a coordinated response. And then afterwards, we conducted a very comprehensive after-action review and improvement plan. That's not completed yet. It's in the final stages of review. But just know that we reacted, they responded, and there was an evacuation of the school out of an abundance of caution. And I will say one thing that I'm allowed to say outside of the after-action before it's finally approved, that they made the right choice to evacuate, but there was never any dangerous chemicals or gases that were detected anywhere in this building from the moment they got here to the moment they cleared it. And they checked the building multiple times. Now, I say that just because I want you guys to understand that. Could there have been? Sure, there could have been. And we were ready and we took actions in case there was. But luckily, for whatever, the mixture happened, it didn't cause any dangerous, hazardous chemicals to come out. The one thing I want to leave you with is, if you do one thing tonight that is going to make you more resilient and help us out in helping you, it would be to sign up for Somerville Alerts. It's knowledge that's going to help you. And so if you're not already signed up for Somerville Alerts, This is where if the city wants to send you information about an event, they use this, but also if we have an emergency and we want to send out information like evacuation instructions or something that's going to happen and what's happening, we would do it through this process. Now you can go to the website, to Somerville Alerts, you can search it on Google, but honestly, our friends over, where is he, over Constituent Services, they're the easiest way. Just stop by the desk at 311 at the City Hall or call 311 and they will walk you through it and put you in the system themselves. Don't go in there and be like, I don't know, and all of a sudden you're getting all these messages you don't want. They know the system. Call them, stop by, they'll walk you through it, put you in the system, and that's all I got. Any questions? What's this? Right behind you.
I'm, is it working? Hello? Okay, I'm over on Partridge Ave, and I have some elderly neighbors, and like, I'm really wonderful to talk to them and tell them what's going on, but they don't have internet, and when I was listening to this other woman, I'm really concerned about all this online stuff, because the elderly, they don't want to do the computers, they don't want to have their own cell phones.
Right.
What are we doing to reach out to them?
So great question. So she's asking, some people that are elderly, and actually some people that are not elderly, aren't necessarily, online, and a lot of us are kind of going to online. We have a Facebook page and a website. So what are we doing? Well, first of all, the alerts, they don't just come through like online. They would come through text messages, phone calls, that sort of thing. So that side of it. But we're trying to get out in the community. So one of the things we did was we did a presentation for the Council on Aging. We taught the Until It Arrives training for the Council on Aging to try to get out. We're doing some more programs. We actually did a public access television show on senior preparedness. We did that. That was a lot of fun, actually. We're going to do that again. It's a little weird sitting on a set and the lights and all that stuff, but it was fun. We're also trying to, we went to the Somerville Housing Authority, and we taught a emergency preparedness presentation there, and we worked with them. But we want to find other ways to get out in the community. So I welcome your suggestions on ways to make sure we're connecting. We're always available. Again, don't go to my website, because you just said don't do that, as far as online. But you can reach us by phone, and I can give you one of my cards, and you can share it. We're always available. And if somebody needs something, or you want to come out to a community group or whatever and speak with you, go from there. Also, we are at all the community events, and we hand out tons of paper information at those events, not just like a website or QR code, but we hand out actual information. So again, if you even identify that, we can get that out to them as well, because that's what I'm talking about, reaching people where they're at, and that's where I need help. What else? Good to go. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. Next up, I would like to welcome Deputy Chief Lavey, right? Lavey. Sorry, I was wrong yet again.
Good evening, welcome. Thank you, Ward 5, for coming out. I hope everyone's doing well. My name is Rich Lavey. I'm a Deputy Chief with the Somerville Police Department. We like to start out with giving you a macro snapshot of crime in Somerville. Part 1 crimes, those are your violent offenses, and they also include property crimes like larceny. On a citywide basis, Part 1 crimes have increased over 9% over the last 12 months. But these increases are driven by shoplifting events. And the good news is there's been decreases in burglaries, in motor vehicle thefts, and breaking into motor vehicles. Specifically to Ward 5, your Part 1 crimes have decreased over 8% in the last year. Although we have seen some increases in residential burglaries, there's been decreases in motor vehicle theft, larceny, and aggravated assaults. What do we do with this information? How do we respond as a police department? We have a crime analysis unit that constantly monitors this data. We use that data to deploy based on patterns, hotspots, repeat incidents, and feedback from the community. If we get a report there's a lot of car breaks in this area, then we'll step up patrols in this area. That's how we can combat this type of crime. It's important that we know that you call and you report crimes so that we can deploy our resources where they're needed. Officers are made aware of these patterns or hotspots through a daily crime bulletin that goes out to the officers. We continue to increase residents' awareness of crime and crime prevention methods. Reports of domestic violence. Citywide, domestic violence decreased by 14 incidents over the last 12 years. The citywide domestic violence this year is also lower than the 5-year average. In Ward 5, domestic violence in Ward 5 has decreased by 2 incidents over the last year. Ward 5 domestic violence this year is also lower than the 5-year average. At the police department, we have a family service unit. They work very hard for survivors of family violence, sexual assault. There's a civilian victim witness advocate. Her name is Maureen DiPaolo. She follows up on every single report of family violence that we get. I think this year she's up over 600 follow-ups this year alone, citywide. At the beginning of the summer, the Chief Benefit came up with a warm weather strategy. The goal was to work with internal, external stakeholders to maximize the opportunity for community safety through the summer season. Our objectives were to identify problems and work collaboratively towards creative solutions, identify resources and target locations based on data, so everything we did was data-driven, deploy additional resources to address concerns per capacity between July 1st and September 30th. Major areas we identified were in the west, Davis Square, in the central part of the city, Somerville High School area, Union Square, and in the east, the Haley area, the Haley School area, the Mystic View Family Development, Temple Street, Lower Broadway, and Assembly Row. Between July 1st and September 7th, police officers here have conducted 1,400 business, citizen, and youth contacts. That's a 344% increase from the same period last year. We've also conducted 1,286 directed patrols. That's a 76% increase over the last 12 months compared to last year. We did 584 park walk and talks. Those are when the officers are directed to park their cruiser, get out, walk, identify themselves to business owners, residents, find out what their concerns are. That's how we learn what's going on, and that's how it's a way we can try and build trust and relationships with the community, which is a segue into the next portion of building trust and legitimacy. We conducted a national night out. We've done this the last few years. On August 5th, maybe some of you were lucky enough to dunk Deputy Donovan in the dunk tank, or one of the other brave souls that were bold enough to get in there. The kids really liked dunking them. This is a community building event campaign that we do. There's other city stakeholders that have tables there, and it was a really great night. We had great weather. More recently, we conducted a Junior Police Academy. It's a 1-week-long course. The kids were between ages of the 5th grade and the 8th grade. We did this in collaboration with the Parks and Recreation. We got a lot of good feedback on that. And we also conducted a tutorial with the kids from the Winter Hill Innovative School at the Edgerly, at the request of the principal there, about online safety, texting, sexting, these types of issues that come up during the school year, trying to plant the seed in the kids' minds that, this is serious stuff and that there's consequences, but be responsible with your phone. It was well received. We did it in 3 different languages there. 9/11 awareness sessions we did at the Ralph and Jenny Center with the Asian Tea Party and the Brazilian Coffee Social. Priorities for the future. Chief Benford, we hope to implement a pilot, a co-response involving mental health care workers with police through our core unit. We're going to work with PSFA manager the Public Safety for All manager to implement this type of pilot program. We're going to learn what works, what doesn't. We're learning what doesn't work with other communities, and so that we can have the best possible plan going forward. We can be the best service providers we can for the community. We're looking to create community policing command within the police department. We ideally would like to have an officer assigned to each ward, the partner of the city and the residents to address specific neighborhood needs, to develop neighborhood engagement teams for each ward, and to create a sustainable pathway for community members to engage and problem solve with the police department. Nationally, there's an issue policing as far as recruitment and retention of police officers. We need young, progressive minds to take the reins here in Somerville. It's not unique to Somerville. We've been doing a good job trying to recruit people. If you go to our website, there's a number of different ways you can look to become a Somerville police officer. We encourage you to encourage your family members, if they're young people that want to get involved and take that step. I think that Somerville has a bright future. In Somerville, we work very hard to earn your trust, not violate it. And young minds are needed for this process going forward. If you want to contact the Somerville PD for non-emergency stuff, so obviously if you have an emergency, you can call 911, right? But 625-1212 is the non-emergency number. You're actually speaking with the same people who answer the 911 calls, but you're not tying up a 911 line for an emergency. And that's why we ask you to do that. You can follow us on social media. You can submit crime tips anonymously. There's actually an app on our website you can download, and it allows you to submit crime tips anonymously. And that's it. I'll take any questions if anyone has anything.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm commonly biking my kids around the city to and from school. Probably have biked a couple thousand miles in the last couple of years. Yeah. And I can't remember the last time that I saw a car that was pulled over. And I'm continuously seeing them run red lights, speeding, etc. I'm wondering if there's any plans to enforce some of the traffic laws that are in place a little bit more than we're doing today.
So we have hired, or we have new officers that are in training right now. When we become fully staffed up, we're going to build out the traffic department. We used to have a traffic unit that worked 4 to 12 and one that worked during the day. Right now it's only during the day and it was reduced. But we're working towards that end. We have issued a lot of citations. I don't have that data for you right now tonight, but we have issued a lot of citations. But Somerville's a big area. There's a lot of bike lanes, a lot of roadways, and we do targeted enforcement based on neighborhood concerns. So if you have a concern, something you can see on our website, you can go and you can submit a tip. Somebody, if you want to leave your information, we'll call you back, and certainly we'll work with the community to make our roads safer.
Can you hear me now? Maybe, all the way to the mask. There we go. Hi, Crystal Huff. Your statistics about crime mention decreases in domestic violence over the city by 14 incidents, but it doesn't say out of how many. And for the ward, decreased by 2 incidents over the past year, but it doesn't say how many total incidents. Are we talking 5 incidents? Are we talking 20?
So the stat is there's 14 less incidents in the previous 12 months. So we looked at the past 12 months, and then, but it's 14 less incidents from the year prior. I don't have that information for you, but if we can connect afterwards and I can get that information to you. Okay. Good.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, I would like to welcome Brad Rawson, who is the director of our mobility department.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks, everybody. The audio visual's a little tough here. How's the levels? Not too loud, not too soft? Okay. Thanks to everybody who works on making our building spaces work. Thanks to Ben and the City Cable crew, everybody else who's trying to make sure that folks can participate in this process. And thanks to all of you for volunteering a precious night away from home and away from family to be part of our civic experiment here in Somerville. Folks, let's remember, we're at a moment where democracy is under attack, where we are intentionally being driven apart as neighbors. This is one of those funny little spaces where we can come together and say no, right? So thank you for volunteering your time. Thank you for being part of the Somerville community. My name is Brad Rawson. I'm a Somerville resident. I'm a proud parent in our amazing public schools, and I've had the privilege of serving this city in a few different jobs for 18 years. I first arrived here in October 2007, and I see many familiar faces in this audience. Thanks to everybody who's still with us in this process of, direct involvement in our local government. These days, I serve as Director of Mobility in the Mayor's Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development. You've met some of my colleagues tonight, but I think it is worth reminding us this department is about 80 people. 30 of them are affordable housing specialists. 10 of them are small business and workforce development specialists. 10 of them are landscape architects, urban foresters, certified arborists, and parks project managers. 10 of them are architects and permitting specialists. The little team of 8 that I lead is responsible for everything related to transportation, and yet we also rely heavily on other departments. So some of them are here in the room tonight. Big shout out for my partner Brian Postlethwaite, who leads our engineering division, Assistant Fire Chief Sean Tierney, and so many others who make our Safe Streets movement go. So we like to use these meetings as an opportunity to remind folks of the work that we do to implement your vision, which is clearly stated year after year, meeting after meeting, survey after survey, project after project. Somerville residents tell us that they are sick and tired of feeling threatened and unsafe on our streets, that they're sick and tired of feeling like there's too many cars driving too fast, blowing red lights, blowing crosswalks, punishment passes for people biking. You think about all the risks on our streets. We are naming this and saying we can do better. Back in 2017, 2018, this city asked us to put together a strategic plan to guide our investments to save lives on our streets. And then something terrible happened. 2019, for the first time in about 5 years, we lost 3 Somerville residents, pedestrians, crossing the street in marked crosswalks, run over in hit-and-run crashes. This was a traumatic moment in Somerville history, but it really galvanized our community to say, let's look at evidence-based practices to save lives on our streets. And so that really was the birth of Somerville's modern Safe Streets program. What does an average year look like for all of these related city departments who work on these issues? We have been able to rebuild 3 miles of 3 miles of streets repaved each year, and that number is growing to try to keep up with depreciation of roadways. It's not just about filling potholes, as the 311 team said earlier, but it's also about trying to get to the root cause of the issues and actually repave these streets. We rebuild about 2 miles of accessible sidewalk per year and add curb ramps where they're missing or bring old non-compliant ramps into compliance with the law. This is important for everybody, but it's especially important for people who use wheeled mobility assistance devices like strollers, wheelchairs, motorized scooters, and the city has been able to scale up that sidewalk work over time. This community has told us that we want to feel safe, we want our cars driving slow, and so our traffic calming program has grown in scale. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but folks, for many of you who were in the room 5 or 7 years ago listening to our staff talk about this, we couldn't look you in the eye and tell you that we were moving the needle. We could look you in the eye and say we were building 2 or 3 raised crosswalks per year. Now we're doing 60, 80, 100 per year, and that is in direct response to community input and feedback. Speaking of community input and feedback, we are constantly trying to keep our finger on the pulse of this community to make sure that we are doing the work that you are asking your local government to do. There are many ways to do this. One of them is in-person outreach events, flyering in neighborhoods, pop-up events at bus stops, door knocking at small businesses, tabling at our great cultural events and street fairs. Just this past Saturday, we had 3 different in-person outreach events. So my little team of 8, 7 of us were working. A couple of us worked an 8-hour day. Several of us worked 4-hour days because we can't rely on just 6 p.m. meetings in middle school cafeterias being the only way for our residents to participate in local government. As Bill, our great emergency management director, just said, we have to bring the content to the people because we know that this format may work for some, but not for others. So we're really proud of that my little team of 8 is doing more than 100 events per year. We actually just hit 95 today, and there's like still 10 weeks left in the calendar year. So we take pride in this work, being accessible to the community, and really trying to make sure that we are moving in a direction consistent with what you tell us is important. So next question. Are we getting the results that you tell us are important to you? Are we building raised crosswalks and speed humps but not moving the needle to improve safety? There are many key performance indicators that help us answer this question, but here's one of the most important. Crash numbers in our community are down in pretty transformative ways. So the first line on this graph will show you that through the end of the summertime, July 31st, right, to normalize year over year, when you look back over a decade, 10, 20, 30% drops in the number of reported crashes. Our streets feel unsafe, and we acknowledge this, that risk exists everywhere, but these statistics show us that our toolkit is working. The crashes that we're particularly concerned about are the next two, and the next slide will kind of zoom in on them. Crashes involving injuries, crashes involving people outside of cars. So fender benders are an inconvenience, but a life-altering injury is really the thing that we are interested in preventing. And all around the country and all around the world, communities like Somerville are reaching for the same toolbox. It's about physical traffic calming, designing streets that are slow. So again, here's your little zoom in. Again, 10 and 20% drops in the bad crashes that we're particularly worried about. There is still so much work to do, and we want to really acknowledge the fact that it takes a village. I want to say a very public thank you to Mayor Ballantyne for having our back on this journey for 4 years as mayor and for many years as a city councilor and a grassroots advocate before that time. I want to say a big public thank you to our elected officials who are in the room. There are a bunch. Councilor Said has been a champion for these issues. Councilor Mba has been a champion for these issues. I saw some others as well. Folks, we have 11 Safe Streets counselors today, and we're really grateful that they have all worked with us, and we look forward to working with the new generation next year and beyond. Because these tools can involve some trade-offs and some controversy, it's important to have public dialogue about those trade-offs, and it's important to make sure that everybody's bought in on build and raise crosswalks, curb extensions, speed humps, neighborhood traffic circles. Here you see over time the work that has gone to scaling our traffic calming program, and this stuff is crazy complicated. You might think it's relatively easy. Today, Brian's staff and mine were out on the street with a general contractor building speed humps. But there's so many steps in the process that get you there. Some of them are coordination with our fire team, our DPW team. Some of them are communication, hanging flyers on streets so residents know what is coming and when. Some of it is about procurement and contracting. Some of it is about quality control and making sure that the contractors build the things that we tell them to build and don't build them too high or too low or too tight. And I do want to very publicly acknowledge that when something goes a little funny and we get a product that doesn't match what we called for, then Brian's team and my team work together and we tell the contractors to go change it. This happens, right? We do tests with our fire department to make sure that turning radii work with curb extensions. And yet in our Spring Hill project near Somerville Museum not too long ago, Assistant Chief Sean and his team said, excuse me, Brian, excuse me, Brad, something's not working quite well here. Can we review this location? We did it, we went out with some tests, and then we had the contractor rework some of those curbs to make them work better for emergency response. I tell these stories to make sure that folks know that we approach this work with humility. It is our mission to save lives on Somerville Street, but it is also our mission to make sure that our residents feel like we are doing this together as opposed to these changes being done to them, okay? So how do you stay involved? We always close up our presentation by trying to route people if they're interested in learning more. So for all the residents who have reached out to us, have advocated for traffic calming on their streets or in their neighborhoods, a cool process improvement that we put in place a couple of years ago was an online map. Seems like a simple thing, but it's only a few years old at this point. So you can get onto our Vision Zero webpage and you can toggle on and off and see what we built in 2020, see what we built in 2023, see what is planned for 2025 and 2026. There's so many newsletters in this community, but shameless plug for ours. We put a lot of effort into it, and it's not just like academic pieces, or here's what's happening in Chicago or Seattle. It's actually, here is a tabling event where you can come meet your neighbors and talk to city staff and influence the design of a future project. Here is a survey and an opportunity to get involved. Here is a committee meeting for some of our great boards and commissions that support us. And I will note that a couple of you, as neighbors, volunteer on those boards. Thank you, Preston. Thank you, Harriet. So again, we're all in this together, folks. Next slide, please. Last but not least, we've got some physical flyers. Tonight, our team was at a different in-person meeting focused on the Western Pearl Street reconstruction, rebuilding sidewalks and accessibility and traffic calming in the Gilman Square neighborhood. So not a Ward 5 project, but look, Somerville's 4 square miles. These are all our neighborhoods. One thing that we're really excited about that we've been working with Councilor Said on is launching reconstruction planning for Broadway from roughly Trum Field to the top of Winter Hill. So that kind of northern edge of the city, we all know Broadway. We've got some charming characteristics to it, and yet our residents say they're worried about traffic speeds, they're worried about inaccessible sidewalks, they're worried about long traffic lights, they're worried about a lack of dedicated space for biking, they're worried about buses stuck in traffic. The project that we have just launched is intended to address all of those things. Our typical project development process lasts about 14 months. So there's going to be lots and lots of opportunities for residents to get involved, to have your voices in that development process. And then hopefully, 15 months from now, 14 months from now, we'll be issuing a contract bid and getting ready to rebuild that section of Broadway in Ward 5 and Ward 4. Last but not least, Community Path. We all know that in some ways we'll be kind of a little bit of like victims of our own success with getting the Community Path built. It's well loved, and at times user conflicts are severe. So we have a survey out right now. We're doing pop-up events on the path, trying to ask people about their perspectives. We've had like 800 survey responses. It's really cool to see how much people care about the path. And city staff are going to be working on, believe it or not, like possibly speed humps for bike riders. Mopeds, gas-powered mopeds are technically illegal on the path, but we know that they all exist. And so between signage and other traffic calming treatments, it's possible that we together can get a better, safer experience for everybody on the amazing gem that is the Community Path. So I hope that's a helpful kind of 10-minute summary of the work that we do to make your streets safer. I'll stick around for questions until we're done this evening. The best way to get in touch with us is transportation@somervillema.gov. Please email us anytime. If we're the wrong department, we review those emails every week. We get back to them quickly, and we'll route you where you need to go. Thanks for your attention, and thanks for being here tonight.
Hi, I live on Albion Street, right across from the playground. I live on Albion, right across from the playground, and I'll sit on my front porch and watch the cars fly down my street in front of the playground. And so I'm curious how I might nominate my street for a traffic calming measure.
So just to repeat the question, since audio is a little tough in here, resident from Albion Street near the playground, interested in traffic calming being considered for that street. There are a million ways to actually get on our queue for traffic calming. I will note that Albion is already on our queue, and yet additional emails, 311 calls, emails to transportation@somervillema.gov, working with your city councilors. Naima has been a champion for Ward 5 on these issues, so speak with her or at-large councilors. All these things are helpful, but please know that we've started that process, and I expect that within a couple of years, it'll be Albion's turn. We have way more demand for those treatments, and as a result, we just try to be super honest with people that it can be a 12 to 36-month process. So we're coming for Albion. Thank you, but please do follow up with us. Like, more emails in our records are super, super helpful. Thanks.
Hi. I have what is probably your favorite question. What's going on with Highland Ave?
Thanks. So the question was, what's going on with Highland Avenue? So I want to keep this as short as possible. The city was able to do some short-term paving on Highland Avenue a couple of years ago. It was something that the mayor and the city council prioritized, and yet it's not the forever solution, right? It's kind of a Band-Aid. The city has official policy plans that direct us to transform Highland Avenue to make it safer for all people using the road by 2030. It is possible that we could pursue those safety improvements using pavement markings, signage, flex posts, that kind of classic quick build toolkit that you see at times. We think that a reconstruction project is probably a better approach, in part because it can address accessibility issues, traffic calming issues, floating bus stops, and better transit performance. Right now, the city's capital plan is under tremendous pressure, in part because of our school building crisis, and we're trying to be super honest that the mayor, the city council, the CFO are all working on a revised capital plan. We don't exactly know where Highland Avenue is going to land, but we're committed to making it safer and more accessible for everybody, and so we'll publish information as soon as we have it. I know that's an unsatisfying answer, but I think it's important to be honest. Thanks, everybody.
We are now going to transition into the general Q&A section of the night. Any city staffers that are here tonight, I would ask that you prepare yourself and make yourself available to answer any possible questions that might come. So if you have a question, please put your hand up and I can run the microphone over.
Hi, I seem to be hogging the mic. This is Harriet Randvig, and this is sort of an intersectional question between bicycle network, mobility, police, and all these planning things. One of the things that is very, very difficult, and I have no idea except that I know that there's kind of an idea floating with us in the commission to put some signage up in the community bike path that will help people in a fun way pay attention to the fact that there are blind walkers, there are people who walk slowly, there are people who are hearing impaired, etc., etc., etc. And I just wish there were some way, but we know that we don't license bicycles or e-bikes, and those people can go sailing along and go between a walker going one direction and me and my partner the other direction. And it's really frightening. And of course, I know even getting the signs up is a major, major problem. And so it's kind of like, I'm sure somewhere in the bicycle network and along with mobility and all of the intersection here, we really do need to have some way, at least municipally, of disciplining or warning, and I know there's not enough police staff to do that. So I wonder if there are any, if there's any training or possibility that community members could be a part of the watch group and a part of the even warning delivery group. I know it's a big reach, but I figure might as well ask. Thank you.
Harriet, thank you so much for that question. So I just want to answer quickly and simply and say yes, signage is under consideration as part of that community path safety enhancements project that I described, including physical signage, pavement markings on the path itself. Next time you're in Cambridge or Inman Square, if you look down at the pavement on some of their bikeways, they'll have big yield signs that say yield to pedestrians as you approach crosswalks. Those are examples of the kinds of tools that we are interested in using on our community path. And then there's the old-fashioned kind of education, stopping people, talking to them, making sure that they really try to behave like good neighbors. I think we all have some responsibility here, but part of the city's role can be to clarify through signage like you're asking. So the answer is yes. Thank you.
Question for Brad and my beloved neighbor, Brian. So congratulations on all the improvements you guys have made. Those are great statistics for improvements in crashes. Doing some quick math here. So you mentioned you're getting 3 miles of roadway repaved every year. If my AI bot here is authentically presenting data to me, we have about 93 miles of road in Somerville. So doing some loose math, we're repaving about 3% of Somerville's roads annually, of which I'm willing to bet half of may get ripped up by construction projects, potentially miscoordinated water main projects, etc. So let's argue that maybe we're successfully repaving 2% per year. What's your target for actually meaningfully improving road surface conditions across the city of Somerville to help support safety for everyone who uses those roads, whether they be bikers, motorists, and people who are experiencing disproportionate wear and tear on their bodies, their bicycles, whatever equipment it is that they're piloting down these roads across what really amounts to embarrassing road surface conditions for a developed country. So when are we going to be at like 8% a year so that somewhere around maybe even half the roads of Somerville are not actively doing damage to the vehicles of any type of propulsion being used in the city?
Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Postlewaite, Director of Engineering, and yes, I'm Justin's neighbor. I should have expected this one to hit me. So, Justin, your math isn't entirely wrong, but it is partially wrong. And I'll tell you one of the key reasons why. When we do street construction for utility work underneath the pavement, we do I'm too tall. Is this better? Okay. We do two things that ameliorate that latter concern that you suggest. One is we tried to coordinate. We're not always perfect, but we try to coordinate in our 5-year paving plan with our utility reconstruction plan. And when we see utility work hitting on a street that's on the 5-year paving plan, we try to put that particular street later in the schedule so that we're not digging it up after we pave it. It doesn't always work, but that is the goal. And actually, right now, one of those, and it's not in Ward 5, but in Ward 4, I believe it's Thurston, it's one of the worst paved streets in the city. And we were going to do that next year, but National Grid Gas needed to dig it up, so we're going to reverse the orders and move and do it a year later. It's not what I want because it really needs to be repaved, but I'd rather get the gas done first than have them dig up our pavement. The two other components are Eversource and National Grid, which are two biggest utility companies in the city. We require them to do a 12-foot pavement patch afterwards, and if they have to dig it up, within the first 5 years of it being paved, they have to repave curb to curb. So we do have some protections on our recent streets being paved. To a certain degree, we're able to do that for our own reconstruction. Over the next week or two, well, first off, for the past 2 or 3 years, many of you all have been experiencing the water reconstruction project on Central Broadway. They're going out next week to do some overnight milling and overlaying and do some pretty substantial repairs to the trench cuts that they did during the construction. So we do substantial repairs, especially on our major streets when we do our own construction, but ordinarily we try to line it up with paving projects. The piece where I do agree with you on is, or at least Mr. Justin's AI, is the proportion of streets that we're repaving every year. We have about 100 miles of streets in the city. Yeah, it's 90-something, but I round. And a street lasts about 25 years. So if you do the math, we should be paving closer to 4 miles. Shoot, now I'm embarrassed. 4 miles a year, not 3 miles a year. So that is something that we're working on, increasing the amount of paving that we do a year so that we're at least breaking even. And then we need to keep working on that so that we're incrementally increasing the amount of quality streets that we have every year, rather than just making the grade. So I hope that over answers. No, we do not have a target right now. Brad just reminded me of, we have a resurfacing website right now. Under the engineering page, if you go to the pavement management plan link, it has our 5-year paving plan, but what it also does, because we have an awesome GIS person with us now, who has created a whole map of not only the streets that we're planning to pave over the next 5 years, but the streets that are currently under construction, and also the streets that we did the last 5 years and the 5 years before that. And it has it flagged out between partial paving, curb-to-curb paving, sidewalk reconstruction, complete street reconstruction. It's really awesome, and it's actually helped me just like plan things out better. So thank you, Brad.
Going once, going once, going twice.
Brad, this is a question for you. What is the criteria that you use for installing the speed humps? I would just like to say, I'm also a resident of Albion Street, and I've emailed you and submitted 311 requests yearly because of the park.
So the question
There's a lot
was,
of kids at the park.
how does the city prioritize traffic calming and speed humps? And so, yes, I'm glad that Albion's already on the list. So parks, affordable housing, schools, places of worship, bus stops, all of these criteria are included in the way that we prioritize. So if we have a street that is just and of course, traffic volumes as well. So if we have 2 candidate streets and one of them has some of those land use characteristics that might be associated with more pedestrians or more youth, more older adults, we might choose it over an equivalent street that doesn't have a park, a school, affordable housing, places of worship, right? If we have 2 streets where the speed data is identical and the average car is driving 27 miles per hour, but one of them has 1,500 cars a day and one of them has like 400 cars a day, we have a responsibility to use our limited time, resources, and money to treat the street with 1,500 cars a day instead of 400 cars a day. All this information is on the city's traffic calming webpage. So if you Google Somerville traffic calming, you'll find some of those criteria. There's a cool little 6-slide deck that takes you through some of that logic. So that's part of the reason that Albion's on the list already, even though I've had to look at other residents and say, I'm sorry, you're not quite on the list yet. We also actually have to say no at times to residents, and so we do that with empathy as well. That tends to be those really low volume streets or streets where we go out and measure speeds, and the average typical speed is like 20 miles per hour. It's kind of what we're striving for with our physical traffic calming, and so we would have to say to those folks, sorry, we got hotter fires burning that we got to tackle. I hope that answers your question, and yes, Albion is coming.
Is there also somewhere on the website, for example, I live at the intersection of Meacham Road and Buena Vista, and one of the things about Meacham Road is it is a through street from Davis Square to Mass Ave, and whether people come from Dover or from Buena Vista, they come whipping around the corner awfully fast. And we have a fairly large elder population, so I don't know if we would count, do you get more than 400 cars? How would I find that out? Thank you.
Thank you, Harriet. I've captured that note, Meacham Road by Buena Vista. I'll look into the numbers and talk to the staff, and we'll try to communicate back.
Anyone? Going once, going twice? No? Okay, so that's it, folks. We have reached the end of our City Hall community meeting. Thank you guys all so much for coming out. If you have any questions, please feel free to email cm@somervillema.gov, and we can get your comment directed to the appropriate department. So thank you guys again for coming out, and have a great night.